Subject choice presentation for present third years going into fifth year or transition years going into senior cycle. So always we're reminding students at the beginning of senior cycle, motivation is a better indicator of academic success than IQ. So even though students may not have fulfilled their potential in junior cycle, there's still everything to play for in senior cycle. So just reminding people. Okay, so there's 5 websites we need to have a look at. The first one is guidanceoffice.info. That's the school website. So if you go directly to the school website, on the right hand side there's a link into career guidance. That brings you into the Guidance Office website. Curriculum Online is the website run by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, and their job is to outline or give you information on the specific content or the programme outline of all the Leaving Cert subjects. We'll have a look at that in a bit. Qualifax is the most useful bit in terms of actually finding out are there specific requirements for specific colleges or courses. So basically that's the national database of courses. And then Careers Portal is probably the most popular website for senior cycle students. So there's tons of information, careers related, work related. Lots of videos, close to 700 videos up there. So if you want to find out what a guidance counsellor does, or what a surgeon does, what a nurse does, or a electrical engineer does, get a little sort of 3 to 5 minute video. What's quite useful is at the end of that video, they're all asked the same questions, and at the end of the video, one of the questions is, what subjects did you choose or find helpful when you did the Leaving Cert? The last one is the CEO College Applications Office website. For those who want to do a little bit more in-depth research into that, you can. So 5 websites we have is curriculumonline.ie, Careers Portal, which is where the bulk of the information is. The CEO website for those who are looking for information about direct entry to college. Qualifax, as I said, is the most useful one. That's the national database of courses. So we want to find out what specifically is required for something specific, then we use Qualifax. And then lastly, where a lot of these links are, where this copy of this presentation is on the Guidance Office website. So we'll start there. So again, go into the school website, right hand side, click into Career Guidance. This brings you in here. What you're looking for is a third tab across the top, which is Subject Choice. There's a ton of information up there. The bit you need to concentrate on is the senior cycle subject choice. For those looking at secondary school teaching, please read up the Teaching Council Requirements Rule. There's a short presentation, very short presentation on LCVP. I know students have already been spoken to about LCVP, but there's some information up there that you might find useful. Copy this presentation is up there as well. Copy this video is up there as well. I speak fast. You can pause, rewind, and make sure you've got all the correct information. There is a link to curriculumonline.ie for the outline of all the Leaving Certificate subjects. So you get a lot of detailed information there, like what's the content, how is it marked. There's information on Project Maths, matriculation requirements for the National University of Ireland. I put in a quick cheat sheet as well. So if a student says, well, I want to do law, well, here's some of the subjects I'd recommend. I wouldn't invest too much into it, but it's a good way to get some information very quickly just to start thinking about stuff. A little worksheet on how to narrow down your choices, and then just an overview of the point system as well. Again, Leaving Certificate applied students have been spoken to, but there's a little bit more information there. There's a short presentation on LCA for anybody who might be interested. Okay, so what are the options? Junior certificate is a level 3 qualification. So all qualifications in Ireland between a 1 and a 10. So the first official qualification is a level 3. So the choices are going directly into traditional Leaving Cert, which is your 3 core subjects, English, Irish and Maths, provided that you don't have an exemption from Irish, and then 4 choices after that, 4 other subjects after that. You can go directly into transition year. Obviously transition year can go back into traditional Leaving Cert. Then we have LCVP, as I said, quick PowerPoint on it on the previous page. You can find a link into that. Essentially LCVP is a sort of a cut down business subject. So for those who have business, it's a relative walk in the park. For those who don't want to take on the full body of a business course, it's a nice way to do a little bit of business. I think they really enjoy the work experience component as part of that as well. And this will be the last year this course will be run as well. It's completely revamped for next year. For the next academic year after our present third years and transition years. And then we have, of course, Leaving Certificate applied. So if you do the tradition route, you can go straight into basically any college. You can go to Maynooth, you can go to Dundalk, you can go into Cavan Institute. If you're doing Leaving Certificate applied, then you're limited, certainly in the first year, to only going into a PLC course. Now, Leaving Certificate Applied is normally for students who want to go directly into employment, do a PLC course, or take up an apprenticeship. So they're not too disadvantaged by that. And you could do a PLC course and then advance back into a third level course if so desired. Okay, there's the point system. You can pause and have a look at that yourself if needs be. Essentially, the percentage marks are in the centre. We have honours subjects and ordinary level subjects. The honours are on the left-hand side, ordinary on the right-hand side. There's 8 grades between them, H1 to H8. So your H8s are essentially unsuccessful. So anything above 30% on an honours paper, so for example 32% would be H7, that'll give you points, that's 37 points, and then upwards towards the maximum you can achieve is a H1 on honours paper, so anything for 90% or above, and that will give you the 100 points. On the right hand side then you have the ordinary level subjects, so your O1 is worth 56 all the way down to the O6, which is worth 12. You'll notice mathematically huge difference between the O6s and the H1s, which is why students are always encouraged to try at least one honours subject, because even one honours subject can give you, the extra points. There's a bit there at the bottom for the additional bonus points for honours maths. That only kicks in at 40%, so a H6 and above. You must get 40% or above on an honours maths paper to get the additional 25 points. Okay, LCVP is the only subject on the Leaving Cert that has a different points system. So think of it as an A, B or C, a distinction, a merit or a pass. Distinction 80% and above, 66 points, merit 46, pass 28. Less than 50% is unsuccessful. So you need to watch also for LCVP, because all the colleges will give you points for it, but not necessarily all the colleges for it. So for example, NUI, our closest university, say Maynooth, will recognise LCVP for points. So if you got your distinction, they give you 66 points. But when they require 6 subjects for entry, LCVP cannot be one of those 6 subjects. So points are awarded, but recognition of the subject is not awarded. So it's always worth just double checking. Foundation level maths, again, recognised for entry by a lot of the university courses. So you can do a law degree in Maynooth with just foundation level maths. It will fulfil the maths requirement. But they won't give you points for it. The points are only given essentially by the technical university, so ATU or SETU or MTU or TUD, they will give you award points, and Dundalk as well will award points for foundation level, but only at 80% or above. So an F2 is 12 points, F1 is 20 points. So always basically double check when it comes to foundation level maths. So in the real world, this is how the point system works. You have a student there who's taking the core subjects, English, Irish and maths, and then there are 4 options after that: physics, biology, design, communication, graphics and German. They're doing some honours, some ordinary level, they get their grade. Irish, they got the H1, English, they got the O1, so Irish to get the 100 points, English to get the 56 points. So for maths, they got the H3, which is 77 plus the 25, so they actually get 102. So H3 on maths is actually more points than a H1 on any other subject, which is why so many students are deciding to keep up on the honours maths. So your points essentially are based on your best 6 subjects. So this student, their lowest points or their lowest achievement was the O2 on DCG, which is still a good result, but it's 46 points. It's not one of their top 6 for points, so it's not counted. It's essentially not counted for in terms of points, and the points there for that student was 458. Average points for a student in this school is somewhere between 305, 350, and depending whether you're counting foundation level maths or not. So I think the biggest problem the students have, and some parents have, with the points calculation is the perception that I want to do arts in Maynooth, I need ordinary level French is my weakest subject, so it's going to pull my points down. That's not true. Your points are always based on your top 6. The colleges, when they're looking at matriculation, what subjects do you require for entry, they will look at all your subjects and say, yeah, you passed French, that fulfills the requirement. But when the CEO are calculating your points, it's automatically and always your top 6 subjects. Okay, so as I said, best 6 subjects are counted for points. It's based on a single sitting of the Leaving Certificate. Watch for foundation level maths. Foundation level Irish is effectively not recognised anywhere and not given points by any college. And then lastly, if a student is looking at medicine, they must matriculate, i.e. get the right subjects and achieve the points in the same year of application. The health professionals assessment test, the additional test that's used for medicine, that can be carried over for a year, but matriculation and points have to be done in a single year. All right, so think about college as having going through 3 doors. I think that's an easier way to look at it. I'm going to pick on Arts Maynooth, so MH 101 in Maynooth University, because it's our most popular university and arts is the most popular course. There was over 8,000 students applied for it last year. So Arts Maynooth University, MH 101, general entry requirements. So to get into Maynooth University or any NUI university, and that includes UCD, Galway and Cork, you must have a minimum of 6 subjects in your Leaving Cert. So if you had 7 subjects and failed 2 of them, then you're not going to Maynooth irrespective of points. So 6 subjects are in there. 2 of them must be at H5, and then there's also a requirement of a pass in English at honours or ordinary, a pass in Irish at honours or ordinary unless exempt, and a pass in the language at honours or ordinary again unless exempt. So you must matriculate, you must have those basics for Maynooth to even look at you. If you look at Arts in Maynooth, are there any specific requirements? Do I need a laboratory science subject? Do I need a certain grade in maths? The answer is no. So third place is, our third door is the points calculation. So as I said, 8,000 students applied for Maynooth University. So how do I decide who gets in? So I line my 8,000 students up, I look at general requirements. If you haven't got general requirements, you're off the list. So say I still have 7,500 students lined up. I calculate their points, I look at their results, I put together their best 6 for points. I then put them in order of the highest point student all the way down to the lowest point student. Who knows what the highest point student have? Maybe they've got 625, maybe they've got 580. It's going to vary from year to year, obviously, because you don't know in advance what points students will have. I have 1,300 places available, so I start at number 1, the highest point student. I go down to number 1,300. Number 1,300 this year had 307 points. So when you see points as an entry requirement for courses, what that's telling you is that the last person through the door, the lowest points person, the person who achieved the last place, that's the points they have. So number 1,300 on the list this year for Maynooth Arts had 307 points. That's how the point system effectively works. Okay, so when you look at copy this presentation and you click on Qualifax, it'll actually bring you into the Qualifax database. So as I said, if you're interested in science, engineering, business, go into Qualifax, search courses, put in business. You might need to narrow it down by college, or you're only looking for level 8 honours degrees or whatever. There's a filtering system on the left hand side, and you can click in there. You'll get your list of courses. You go into the course, loads of information. The bit you're looking for, I'll show you now in a bit, is the subject entry requirements. Just to double check, if I'm looking at this course, what do I specifically need to get into that? Now, if you go back to the original guidance office page, let's go through the school website and go into my website, then under the first year subject choice, there's a little PowerPoint there about how you actually search course on Qualifax. So if you didn't get what I was saying there, you can just go back and have a look at that short PowerPoint. It'll tell you how to do it. Now, another useful tool on Qualifax, and it's actually called a useful tool, bottom of the page you have CAO subject requirements. If you click on that, one of the questions we're constantly asked is around the third language requirement. So if you just click on there and you put in the third language requirement, you'll see that the sheet says there 1,551. There's actually about 1,650 courses as of this morning on the Qualifax database. But we've just narrowed down to say 1,600, 162 require the language. So you're looking at sort of 10% or less realistically number of courses actually require a third language requirement. So if you click on that, it'll give you the list of all the courses that require it. The first one up is actually the Joint Honours Irish Studies in UCD. That doesn't require a third language. So there are lots of courses, like we want to do Arts Maynooth, that does require a third language. But 90% of courses do not require a third language. So it's always worth checking rather than taking on a language for 2 years and struggling with it. So for example, in this course, there is a third language requirement. There's also an ordinary level maths requirement on this specific course. So it's always worth double checking the individual course requirements. And that's the bit that you're looking for when you're searching the courses, specific subjects or course requirements. Okay, there's a link there at the top to Careers Portal. That brings you into this page here. And that gives you all the Leaving Cert subjects, and it'll give you the content of all the Leaving Cert subjects and how each Leaving Cert subject is going to be marked. So it's a great way of just accessing sort of a page or a couple of pages of information about specific subjects on the Leaving Cert. We just want to find out what will I be studying. Okay, sorry. So, a couple of things here. Number one, I think students often say that certain subjects are easier or more difficult than other subjects. That's obviously not necessarily true. Students who find history easy think that history is an easy subject. Students who find history difficult think that history is a difficult subject. Watch for the teacher. There's no guarantee the same teacher will be teaching the subject next year, so choose the subject always over and above the teacher. Teacher, as I always describe, is like icing on the cake. A lot of people will influence you in terms of subject choice or career choice and whatever, and absolutely fine. But oftentimes, sometimes that can be, there's no politically correct way of saying it, it can be a bit limiting, i.e. if mum or dad are in the trades, then the chance of the student just looking at the trades is probably significantly higher. Mum or dad is in the medical field, the chance of the student looking at medicines is significantly higher. Nothing wrong with that, shared values, shared interests, shared experiences. But the bottom line is it does limit students' choice. In other words, there might be other things they can do other than what's actually being done presently by the family. So just something to bear in mind. Obviously, the most important thing is checking out, do I need this subject? Do I need the third language? Do I need honours maths? Do I need a laboratory science subject? So you go back to Qualifax, checks areas that you might be interested in, and see what's available. Now, parents often advise, and sometimes teachers often advise, keep your options open. But when it comes to the language and comes to the science, it's worth doing a little research. Science especially, I mean, is it worth, if a student doesn't have an aptitude or an interest in science now, keeping on the science subject in case they suddenly decide over the next 2 years that they want to do something in science is probably not the most logical advice. I mean, if a kid doesn't like science now, chances of them liking it later is probably pretty minimal. Anyway, also think of the junior cert they've done so far and what they've actually been good at. That's a good indicator of what students might be good at in the future. And then bottom line, as I said in the second slide there, motivation, a better indicator of academic success than IQ. Find out whether you actually like the subject. If you like it, you do well at it, you'll work at it, you'll get a good grade. Good grade means more points means more choice. So, enthusiasm and interest in a subject is paramount. It's very, very important. Okay. And again, a lot of confusion in these areas, so it's always worth just thinking about things before you make decisions. So for example, DCG, useful, interesting subject, helpful when it comes to architecture, but talk to an architect and you still need a traditional art skill, so art could actually be more useful. You don't need engineering to be an engineer, again, useful, helpful, wouldn't necessarily stop you from doing it. But when it comes to engineering, any kind of engineering, civil, structural, chemical, maths is your priority. You don't need biology to be a nurse. Yes, applied anatomy, physiology is useful for nursing, but chemistry, when it comes down to actually studying a nursing degree, might actually be more useful. You don't need accountancy to become an accountant. It could be useful and helpful towards doing it, but no business course in the country, finance, business management, accountancy, no business course. Well, there is one exception of a course in Galway, but essentially none of them actually require business at second level to take up business at third level. So you don't need a modern language for primary school teaching, never had. Some students will do an arts degree or a humanities degree as a backdoor into primary school teaching. That's where the requirement might come from. But for direct entry to primary school teaching, at the moment there's no modern language requirement. And then in all honesty, most students take up an area of study at third level that probably has little or nothing to do with what they're doing at second level. So you don't need Italian to study Italian in Trinity. Okay. Some students like the idea of the formal final exam, or cram it all in at the end, and that's the way they work well. Other students like the idea of continuous assessment, i.e. achieving as much to do with the subject as possible over a period of time, not sort of concentrating it all on a terminal exam. So there's plenty of that on the Leaving Cert at the moment. Almost 2/3 of your art project or art practical are actually done in class in room 4 under teacher supervision. Half of your construction engineering is the practical, DCG 40%, and then your history, home ec, geography, economics, applied maths, you have 20% in there, and the 20% then for that field trip there in geography. So you can get a chunk of the Leaving Cert done prior to final exams if that suits students, and it does suit a huge number of students better. Now, as you know, there's big changes to Leaving Cert coming online, so the ones that directly affect our students going directly into 5th year this year would be business and then the 3 laboratory science subjects, so chemistry, biology and physics. So there's big changes to that. Essentially, the biggest change is the AAC, we love our acronyms, Additional Assessment Component, whereby 40% of the grade for those subjects will now be done through 20 hours of individual work. So basically a project or a piece of work for those particular subjects. So we'll see how that works out. So obligatory subjects, compulsory subjects are English, Irish and Maths. English is done a higher ordinary. There was a foundation level English course, but that's gone a long time. Irish and Maths is done an ordinary, higher, and then there's also a foundation level. Now, as I said about foundation level Irish, not acceptable as a subject for matriculation and not acceptable for points. I've left the asterisk beside the Irish because some students do obviously have an exemption from Irish. If you have a school-based exemption from Irish, any course that requires Irish, you just basically ignore that requirement. It's only a matter of doing a bit of paperwork in sixth year. And then some students who may have a diagnosis of dyslexia will be able to apply for an exemption of both Irish and the third language requirement. And indeed, if somebody is actually born outside of the country, you can present a copy of your birth certificate or passport, and that will give you the Irish exemption as well, but only the Irish exemption, not the third language exemption. So in this school, in our 5 different areas, we offer 19 subjects, and the student's job is to pick 4, so choose 4 from the area of 19. So first tranche is language options, so Irish, English, normally compulsory unless exemption is there. French is more popular than German, and then we have students who might take up their native language as well. That could be Latvian, Polish, Bulgarian, whatever, and that can be done as an additional subject for the Leaving Cert. Okay, you can pause on this rather than me sort of chatting too long. You can pause on this and read it through for yourself. But I suppose just a couple of points. One, the guards did bring in the English or Irish requirement, so you do no longer require Irish for the guards. If you are good at Irish, there is a sort of a separate stream within the guard training in Templemore where you can actually do more Irish, and that's an option as well. They did change the honours Irish requirement for primary school teaching recently from a H5 to a H4, so that went up a bit. But just to remind people that Irish as a subject does fulfil the requirement for modern language for Trinity. So Trinity, English and Irish will fulfil the requirement. There's no other third language required there necessarily. If you're looking at DCU, it's English or Irish, so a single language is required. And then for University of Limerick, it's English and another language, and that other language could be Irish, and in the absence of Irish, it could be French or German. And again, no points for foundation level maths. Okay, with English, just watch for the movement between honours and ordinary, because essentially you're moving from one programme to another, different drama, different poets, whatever. So the earlier you move on English, sometimes the better. Not necessarily true in maths, but probably a little bit more true there in English. So talk to the teacher beforehand. Don't fail honours English. A huge number of courses require a pass in English, so failing honours English can cause complications. I think the failure rate was less than 3% this year, honours English, but there is still a failure rate, obviously. Not required for anything. We have had in the past students looking at psychology courses through UCAS, so UK, and they do normally look there for honours English, just to keep that one in mind. But English is obviously very useful for a huge number of courses, especially things like journalism or speech and language therapy. Okay, so the languages themselves, nice to have if you're doing business. Is a requirement for the NUI colleges for their arts and social science degrees. You do need if you want to do the officer training for the army. Again, useful for things like tourism, marketing, pure language courses. But in modern languages, not required for any nursing degree in the country, direct entry to primary school teaching, any science degree anywhere, any ag science degree anywhere, or any engineering degree. Okay, nor for business in NUI Maynooth. So as we said, there's a huge number of courses that there is no third language requirement. If you like the language and you're good at it, and it'll get you a grade, which will get you points, all the better. But struggling with it when it's not necessary is probably not a great idea. Okay, as I said, students can sign up for other additional languages as well. So in the science area, we've got the 3 laboratory science subjects: biology, chemistry, and physics. Then we have pure science, which is obviously mathematics. We have ag science, and then we have applied maths. I would always recommend applied maths for students who are serious about doing science or engineering at third level. That's a very useful subject, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done at honours level. We have some students who have successfully managed it at ordinary level, and they've still found it beneficial, but it's usually a small enough class. Okay, so rather than me wasting your time with that, I'm sure everybody can read through that. As I said, you can actually still take up a science subject at third level without actually doing a science subject at second level. If you are serious about medicine or dentistry, TCD, 2 science subjects are required. Good combination there would be chemistry and biology. And then engineering, please look at physics and chemistry. Chemistry doesn't automatically spring to mind when people think of engineering, but it's definitely up there in the mix. Okay, and again, then there's some odd ones there at the bottom. So, for example, physical education with biology and DCU. If you haven't got biology, they'll actually take physics or chemistry. Okay, here's a bit of a cheat sheet from the British Association for the Advancement of Science. Common sense, no surprises. If you're interested in something in biological sciences like horticulture or want to do marine biology down in Galway, then prioritise biology, second chemistry, and then work on the maths. Chemical sciences, you want to be a biochemist, obviously concentrate on chemistry, then maths is still a priority. It'd be nice to have physics in the mix. Looking at doing astronomy and minute, prioritise your physics. Maths comes very close second place, and then chemistry, actually a lot of chemistry in astronomy would be a good combination. Engineering, always concentrate on the maths, all right, and then maybe physics, chemistry is a good way of bringing in additional skills that might be required for engineering. For medicine, then your chemistry is always prioritised. Human medicine, medical sciences, chemistry is number one. Medical sciences, biology, medicine, maybe biology, physics. You can argue about which one should be first there, but I mean chemistry, biology would be the best combination for those interested in the human sciences. Okay, maths, literacy, numeracy are the 2 essential skills looked for most jobs. The grade in maths usually reflects the level of maths that's required for a course. So a course says we need an O3, we need an O4, and that's probably a fair reflection of the amount of maths on the course. At the moment, 650 courses in the CEO, as of this morning, 71 only required a grade in honours maths, and obviously the vast majority of those are honours engineering degrees. So very few students do maths because they need it. Most students do maths because they're looking for the honours maths because they're looking for the additional points. Foundational maths not acceptable for the Gardaí, so just keep an eye on that one. And as I said, you can do arts, music, social science. You can do a full law degree in any NUI college, and with foundation level maths, and that will fulfil the requirement. And then there's some odd things in there as well, like an honours applied maths will actually fulfil the honours maths requirement for engineering, for only engineering computing courses in Dublin City University. So that might sort of be useful for 1 or 2 students. Okay, in the business area, we have accounting, business and economics. As I mentioned earlier, no business course in the country requires a business subject. There is one exception, that's the one down in Galway, and that's their commerce and accounting course, which looks for the H4 in accounting. They brought it on a trial basis. I think they've just sort of kept it there. Interesting question to ask is, why not? Why do you not need a business course for business at third level? Because there's such disparate areas. They're just completely different areas of study. So it's so you can have students who actually can pick up business at third level, actually haven't done it at second level. No harm in doing it if you enjoy it. Now, what I often advise is, if you are serious about doing some sort of core business subject at third level, you want to do finance, you want to do business management, then the subject that would be recommended, the one that would be probably most useful, would actually be economics. Everybody likes it, everybody's good at it, but a clear winner in terms of actually helping you with a business course at third level would actually be economics. Okay, social studies areas, we have our history, geography, art and music. History is not required for anything, but useful for a lot of stuff. Law, politics and journalism. Geography is a little bit odd in the sense that if you study geography at third level, it's essentially in the science faculty, so it's considered to be a science subject. So Trinity will accept a geography as an equivalent grade of a science subject for entry to science or pharmacy. And UCD, not to be outdone, will actually accept geography as a laboratory science subject for their entry to science or their entry to the archaeology and geology programs. Okay, so it's just a couple of oddities in there. Art is, if students are doing art and they need a portfolio, they need to start working from 5th year. It's incredibly intense, and some students end up doing the portfolio prep course in PLC college, because they ran out of time in sixth year to get the portfolio together. There's not one in there. As NCAD is an NUI college, so they look for a third language, but in the absence of a third language, that particular college will accept art as a Leaving Cert subject, so it's worth looking at. Most students do music because we don't offer it presently as a Leaving Cert subject, do it outside of school. Most of them do it outside of school successfully, and those musicians, then, if they're applying for music at third level, there's usually a sort of a test or an audition of some description required for that, so the students are usually fairly keyed into that. But again, if they're not, check. Alright, the applied sciences is where we run into most issues because these are our most popular group of subjects. Engineering, DCG, construction and home ec. Notice that home ec is scientific and social. It's very much a science subject. It's just not considered a laboratory science subject unless you're looking at home ec teaching down in Sligo. Okay, so there's 8 courses there that would look for home economics. You can pause and look through there if you're interested, but obviously things like, food science in Grange Gorman. Now, I've there's a link here on the next page, but if you are just out of interest in looking at, how many students are doing particular subjects, what grades they're achieving, and comparing them over the years, just as a sort of a intellectual exercise, then you can click on this link. This is the one for 2004. You can see that the most popular honours subjects last year, and probably for the last number of years, have always been English, biology and Irish, followed closely by the mathematics with Graeme. That's because of those students looking for the additional 25 points. Business, geography are up there. If you look at the bottom of the list, you're into ancient Greek, Latin and Lithuanian and so forth. You're into much smaller numbers there. Now, if you click on this, Subject Grades Explorer, it's an interactive page. This is just a screenshot of an interactive page. And I've just got it set up here for, which subject has the most H1s. Remember earlier I talked about easy and difficult subjects, or easy versus hard. So obviously everybody should be doing Mandarin Chinese because that's where the most number of H1s are. That's obviously incorrect because the vast majority of those 337 students who did Mandarin Chinese are probably native speakers. Same with the Russian, Portuguese and Lithuanian. So sometimes people are a bit shocked or surprised at the subjects are more difficult to get, or there's less number of H1s in. So English is actually very difficult to get a H1. I can teach you a H2, but that H1 is that's a flare you really can't teach people. Economics hard enough to get. History hard enough to get as well. Now sometimes it's not a reflection on the subject, it's a reflection of the students who take the subject. You end up with a lot of students taking the subject thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, and it's not necessarily so. So it's more to do with sort of wrong subject choice rather than the subject itself being difficult. Anyway, it's worth, if you click on that, it's worth messing around with that just for 5 minutes. So as I said, it's interactive map, so you can use that just to see what's going. Alright, so how does matriculation or subject requirements work in the real world? So taking UCD, largest university in the country, just an example, you can look through it yourself, but just look at architecture, the first one up there. So you notice for architecture you need a pass in honours or ordinary in Irish, a pass in English, honours or ordinary, no third language requirement, neither is there for science or engineering or sustainability or food science. There's no language requirement of those courses there. There is a maths requirement, not necessarily even honours maths for architecture. An 06 will fulfil the requirement. No laboratory science subject, although physics could be useful there. And then 3 other subjects. So you must have 6 subjects to matriculate. One of them must be Irish, one must be English, and one must be maths, unless there's an exemption, obviously, from the Irish. You'll notice that there was 57 places for that this year. So again, they lined up their number of people who are looking for the course. They went from the top points person down to the number 57, and number 57 this year had 552 points, which is an exceptionally high number of points. And that's effectively how the point system works in the real world. You can take a moment there and have a look at that one. Okay, getting on again, sticking with the real world. So as of this morning, top 12 in-demand skills in Ireland. No surprises, anybody who's awake or looking at a newspaper or reading stuff online, this is all self-evident. Massive shortage around people at ITs. Cloud computing is a huge industry at the moment. A lot of colleges have courses around cloud computing. AI skills, the dreaded AI, is increasingly being used by industry and services. Cybersecurity, massive industry, massive amount of shortages, don't have enough teachers, definitely don't have enough people to be building houses. Sales, healthcare, we're all getting older, and not enough of anybody in the healthcare. Okay, whether it's physiotherapy, nursing, or specialist skills, we don't have it. Finance, there are shortages. Logistics, there's shortages. Hospitality, there's ongoing shortages. And then nearly every field of engineering is finding it difficult to recruit at the moment. So there's, we are presently we're in a case of effectively full employment, and that's leading to even more sort of skills shortages. So there's the areas that students may be looking at least for the foreseeable future. Nobody's got a crystal ball, can't see how everything's going to work out, but at the moment this is where the shortages are. Okay, so to summarise, do your research. Best 6 for points. That gives you more choice. If you have a specific career in mind, please check it out. Use your Qualifax search engine. If you make a mistake in September, sort it out as quickly as possible. No guarantee it can actually be changed, but at least come and have a chat about it, because there are limits on class sizes, so you can only have 20 in a home ec class, so you can't put someone into home ec class if they're number 21. Be conscious of the fact there's this mythology around the easy and hard subjects. It might be easy for you and hard for someone else. As I said, with the point system, the H100 points, that's top of the league table. So make sure that you can, if you can do 7 honours subjects, do 7 honours subjects. If you can pull off 1 honours subject, pull off 1 honours subject. I think every student is basically, is capable of at least an honours subject. Don't choose a subject entirely based on a teacher. The thing might not be here, or you might not get the teacher you're looking for. And then lastly, probably pretty good advice, is the Leaving Certificate is a full-time 2-year course. If you're not working in 5th year, you're falling behind, and then you're catching up in 6th year. So it's designed for the average student over a 2-year period of time to get an average result. So it is a full-time 2-year course. I think a lot of students, they sort of take the foot off the accelerator in 5th year a bit, and that has repercussions or consequences in 6th year. So work from day one. Good attitude in class, positive, taking notes, keeping up with the homework, having even day one of 5th year, start with the revision plan. That's really, really important. Okay, again, more advice, maybe talk to some 5th year, 6th years doing the subjects at the moment, just to see how they feel about it. Maybe talk to, we're doing a subject symposium hopefully next week or the week after next. So talk to the teachers of the subjects and see if they can give you some information. I think a handy way of getting a lot of information very quickly is to look at a copy of a textbook, borrow a textbook, look at that for 10 minutes. It gives you a good solid idea of exactly what you'll be studying over the next 2 years. And if you really want to be, if you're dead serious about it, look at the exam papers. So go to examinations.ie, go to Material Archive, have a look at exam papers. That gives you a fair idea of the standard and the quality and the kind of areas that you'll be looking at over the next 2 years. But be careful, if I gave a junior cert paper to a first year coming in, they'd have a cardiac arrest on the spot. So it is something that you'll work up to over a 2-year period. But it's a great way to get a bit of insight very quickly. And even, I threw this one in, even AI can help. You put into the ChatGPT questions to help 3rd years at subject choice. It came up with those 15 questions, better than I would do. So it's worth taking a minute and sitting down and maybe going through those questions one by one, just to make sure you've got a handle on subject choice and everything is going okay. And then lastly, just to remind students, there are students who apply on their access programs. So we have 2 access programs. One is called HERE, one is called DARE. HERE is Higher Education Access Route. That's essentially for people who come from socioeconomic disadvantage. So the colleges recognise that you're not going to do as well as you should do. You're not probably getting the nice sort of support. You're maybe not able to access all the sort of the additional tuition that people are getting and this kind of stuff. So the colleges take that into consideration, and they can reduce points for entry, offer additional supports post-entry. Okay, very, very useful. In fact, the number of students who have applied for that this year, as of the data yesterday, is actually down, so it's definitely worth looking at. DARE, on the other side, is actually up. DARE is Disability Access Route to Education. That covers everything. The normal ones are dyslexia and dyscalculia. They're the most frequent ones. But anything, if somebody has mental health issues, if somebody has, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, physical issues, and have to be sort of a learning difficulty, then you might be eligible under DARE. So the reason I'm asking people to look at DARE now, go to the accesscollege.ie website, have a look and see whether reports at this stage need to be updated, because you need to plan ahead to get a report updated, and they don't come cheap. Okay, and then lastly, if you do have any questions, welcome to phone me, or that email goes straight to my desk, and I'll try and get back to you as quick as possible. Okay, so don't be afraid to ask a question. And that's it. So I hope that's been helpful. It's a very fast run through. I know some of you might have to rewind and have a look at some stuff again, or take pauses as you go through, but hopefully I've covered as much in a short period of time as possible. Okay, so thank you and goodbye.